Hello and Merry Christmas to everybody. We are recording this on the 24th of December, about 10:30 in the morning. And what a special little podcast that we're doing for you today. I'm really excited about this one, where we have my old friend, no offense, Jamie Pollard from Iowa State. And I'm learning a lot that Rob Mullens, the athletics director at Oregon, and these two guys go way back, and we thought we could showcase this for you guys here over the holiday as we lead up to the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl coming up on the 2nd of January. And Jamie, I want to let you're the one who I knew that I always knew that you were friends with the athletics director at Oregon because you've told me you've gone out there for track events and stuff like that before, but I didn't know the depth of the friendship between you and Rob, who was gracious enough to give us some time today. So, Jamie, how did this relationship between the two of you begin?
Well, it goes back to our days together at the University of Maryland. Rob was working at the University of Miami, and he's a West Virginia grad, but also a CPA. And we were looking for a new business person at Maryland, and Rob was one of the people that applied. And we ended up hitting it off, and we hired Rob. But he brought at the time his was that your girlfriend at the time, right?
Just Jane? A friend, just a friend.
Just a friend, Jane, who came with, who also was working at Miami. And as it turned out, Jane was really good in compliance and ended up working for us in the athletics department at Maryland also. And Ellen and myself just developed a really good relationship with Rob and Jane, and ended up being lifelong friends. So unfortunately, we're separated by a lot of miles, so we don't get to see each other anywhere near as much as we used to when we, back in the Maryland days, we had a lot of fun together. Played golf regularly, and one of the best stories I have about Rob was Rob and I were golfing when our second child, when Ellen went into labor.
Oh, wow.
And she had a lot of preterm labor with our first child. And so I was used to these false starts. So I think we were like on the third hole, weren't we, Rob? And when the call came, I asked, well, can I finish? Because, I'm thinking like, it's not that big a deal. And needless to say, that didn't sit well with Ellen, that I thought maybe we should finish the round of golf first. So, but we go way back.
Well, welcome, Rob. It's good to have. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, no, very accurate. I feel blessed and fortunate to have the opportunity to go to Maryland. That was just a real, in our life, it was a chance for Jane and I to take a huge leap from a career standpoint, really build the foundation for our relationship as well as our careers. And obviously we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Jamie giving us a chance at Maryland and all the great lessons. And we did have some wonderful times. It's funny, I was thinking about this conversation today, and Jamie was, being the big Packers fan that he was, we did the ultimate road trip to the Super Bowl that was Brett Favre, wow, Bill Parcells, and the Patriots. Fast forward now, our oldest son is 16, and he still wears number 4 because, he was attached to Favre as a little kid, and still, whether it's basketball or baseball, his first choice is always number 4. So it's funny how all those things get interwoven.
Wow. And I'm a Vikings fan, so don't hold that against me, Rob.
Have they been to the Super Bowl since that Super Bowl? No, wait a second. I don't think the Vikings have they?
They've never been to the Super Bowl in my lifetime. So in the 4 previous, they as you all know, that they lost them all. So I've been going over, Rob, learning about your resume, and I wanted to get more into the college football playoff and basketball committees and all that stuff. But I want to talk about the personal. Jamie, when you obviously, you kind of knew that Iowa State had a shot to end up in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl against a Pac-12 team. And then when Oregon had the big win on Friday night, How did it kind of circulate through your mind that you may be going up against your buddy here?
Well, we've never got to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never played each other. I've gone to the Final Four when Oregon's been at the Final Four, but I've never got to be with Iowa State when, we were playing Rob's team. So as that kind of unfolded, I remember thinking that on Friday night. Now, I knew that meant that we probably would have to lose on Saturday, but it was like, well, if we don't win Saturday, a consolation prize will be we'll probably get to go to the Fiesta Bowl, and we might get to, play Oregon. So, that was a silver lining for me, because getting a chance to, be AD against AD for the first time will just make the game that much more enjoyable.
What about you, Rob? How'd you react to this matchup?
Yeah, well, after we won, obviously, and started thinking about, what could happen. My first thought was, I was, hoping that Iowa State would finish off a great year. But no, would love the opportunity to be in Phoenix with Jamie and Ellen. Although I did get a pit in my stomach when I start thinking about Breece Hall and Brock Purdy and Matt Campbell. So, some of the job survival skills kick in, and you better be careful what you wish for.
I get it.
Well, it's funny you say that, Rob, because I was talking to Coach Campbell last night, and he was going, yeah, Oregon's got a lot of 4-star and 5-star players. They got a lot more team speed than us. So.
Right. But I love when I read, that you guys are about 5-star culture. And that's really what we're trying to do here as well. Is build something that's sustainable for the long time. And it really is about the culture. So, I really admire what's been built in Ames for sure.
So, Rob, admittedly, I'm a college football junkie. I just haven't watched a ton of Pac-12 this year because of how COVID's been, and it's just been crazy, as everybody in athletics knows. So I've been really studying Oregon the last couple of days, and I'm in love with your coach. I think he's fantastic. He reminds me a lot of Matt Campbell, and I'm a big Matt Campbell admirer, but those two guys, to me, they seem like they're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, that's what it appears. Obviously, I've been admiring Matt from afar, and obviously, hear, how much Jamie thinks of his leadership. And I do think there's some similarities where it starts with culture and character, and the physicality piece of it is important as well. And so I think that's, it's going to be about execution. It's going to be about competing hard.
What about you, Jamie? Have you studied up on the Ducks yet?
I can't say that I have. I've watched them from afar, but that's why last night Coach Campbell was talking about it, and it's like, it is be careful what you wish for. I'm thinking back though to this past weekend, because I was worried, on Saturday night into Sunday, like, well, what if we don't get picked for the Fiesta Bowl? So given Rob's former position on the college football playoff committee, I texted him, and it's like, there's no way they can't take us, right? It's got to be us. They can't take Indiana. And he was giving me some, assurances like, well, you are, you're in a conference championship game and your strength of schedule. So it made me feel better. But I do know their quarterback, is a high school friend and competitor of Brock Purdy. So that makes, that a little bit more interesting. And I've watched them enough to just know they've got incredible team speed, which, will be a challenge for us.
Yeah, the Purdy thing is really interesting that both of those kids get to go home and play in the Fiesta Bowl, which I'm sure is really cool. Rob, you're the former chair of the College Football Playoff Committee. Well, you talk about the most thankless job in the world.
No, and I'm sure Jamie having a similar experience. Obviously, when you're in that position and you get a lot of emails from team number 5 and team number 6, that's just part of it. But what a great experience! Obviously, the platform that college football provides for all of us, and then the opportunity to work with so many other wonderful professionals. I mean, I was, Chris, when I chaired my first meeting, it was kind of one of those surreal moments. I've got Frank Beamer sitting to my left, growing up in Morgantown, West Virginia. The Mountaineers battled his great Hokie teams many, many times. And sitting on my right is Ronnie Lott, one of the greatest all-time players of my life, in a room filled with accomplished people like that. So where else can you get an opportunity to work on something so intense, so important, and make friends with so many great leaders?
Yeah. So, Jamie, you recently got to do the NCAA tournament. I felt terrible for you. I know that you're not looking for sympathy, but to put in all that work and then the tournament got canceled the way that it did, that was one of the first things I thought about because you've been kind of telling me what it was like, and I'm geeking out, Rob. I always joke on my radio show that you don't need a football playoff committee. I'll just do it. Okay. Like, I have all the answers, right?
That's the beauty of college sports right there. We appreciate that.
Jamie, kind of reflect on how Rob just described it with your time in the NCAA basketball committee.
Well, I'm going to say something first though, because, Gary Bart is the chair since Rob left. Right. And, my assistant has taken phone calls this week from Texas A&M and Cincinnati fans thinking that Iowa State is Gary Barta. So
that's great.
These people have the wrong number, but they want to talk to you because they're mad at you for not picking them. So there is spillover. But you're right. Last year was my first year on the basketball committee, and it was really eye-opening. And what you do learn is there's a lot of great professionals, like Rob has alluded to, that really pour their heart and soul into trying to get this right. And oftentimes as fans, we don't fully appreciate how objective these people are and how they really are trying to do it right. But, we spent a lot of time last year, at least me, your first year through, you don't really know yet what you're supposed to really be doing. So I probably did more than I needed to do. And then to kind of come up short and not ever get to see, like, well, was I thinking like everybody else or not? Because I don't know, because we never picked the team. So, I do have a little hangover, I have to admit, for this year, because it's been harder to get started watching teams and getting into it as much, because I feel a little numb still from last year. But I'm going to guess after we turn the calendar here and football kind of is behind us, it'll get a little easier to get ramped up again for this March.
How different is it this year, Jamie, there really wasn't much of a non-conference in college basketball, and there's been some, but not nearly to the extent. I mean, are you guys valuing things differently, or is it just whatever games you play, that's what we're judging you on? How would you describe it?
Well, it's going to be that. Whatever you play is what we're going to judge you on. But, to say how we're going to do that and what's the ultimate impact, I mean, it's still premature, because none of us really know what it's ultimately going to end up looking like. We've gotten a little window into it, and in some cases, some teams have played quite a few, and in other cases, I was watching DePaul last night, and that was their first game of the year. So, you just have a wide array of resumes this year, and we'll have to figure that out. I personally don't think it's really going to impact who gets in the tournament. I think it's going to be really hard to seed teams. But I'd also say, and I had a conversation with Coach Self about 3 weeks ago about this particular issue, is, where you're seated is probably going to be the least of your concerns, because the tournament is going to be so different in the fact that it's going to be played in, one location, and you're going to be kind of, to win it all, you're going to have to stay in, a certain city in a certain hotel for a 4-week time period. That'll be so different for all the teams, and which coaches can adapt to that and which players can adapt to that. And it's kind of like what we saw in football this fall. Some coaches just short-circuited because, they didn't get to do everything they normally did, and other coaches just adapted to it. And I think that's what you're going to see in basketball.
Rob, I do a daily talk radio show, and I would say we're about 60 to 70% college football year round. And my audience has heard this a lot, but I always say it's impossible to be completely clear on like the Final Four, because college football is so different, right? Some leagues play 9 games, some play 8. Like, nobody's schedule's the same. But then this year, it's completely impossible. This year's been a total cluster. Are you glad that you aren't in Gary Barta's seat this year?
That would be a very tough seat this year. And also, even when in a regular year, you're dealing with availability, right? You're trying to assess injuries, who was without key players. And this year, I mean, that just had to be a Herculean task, not just the number of games, but who was available. As you mentioned, related to basketball, you didn't have any interconference play. So yeah, no, I'm glad that my tenure ended after last season.
All right, let's get to the Cyclones and the Ducks here. Oftentimes, like when there's a big game, like the governors of the states will do like a bet. Are you guys doing a bet? Like, are the two athletic directors to be putting anything on the line?
Are bound by NCAA rules. We're bound by NCAA rules.
You're finding. I mean, you got two, choir boys here. We're not going to do anything wrong.
Come on.
Heck, his wife is a former compliance person.
You guys can't bet like a dinner or anything. That's illegal. Come on.
No, we're going to play it by the book.
I just want an invitation to the lake house. That's what I want.
Well, I've invited him to the lake house a ton, but his sons are like little league and now high school baseball players, so they play baseball all summer long. So he's going to have to wait till he's an empty nester.
Yeah, you don't want to go to the lake house, and right now it'd be a tough day to attend the lake house. I
don't know what it's like in Oregon this morning, but last night it got down to about 12 below wind chill. The wind was howling. I tell you what, when I took the dog out last night in the middle of the night, it was cold.
Yeah, we're not quite that cold, but it was got down in the low 30s here last night.
Hey, what can I do to negotiate here? Just put me in the middle to get home and home. Because I want Rob and I want the Ducks to play in Ames. What do we have to do to get this done?
Well, I mean, that'd be a great matchup. It's the way scheduling's done now. It'd probably be in 2035. We still have a radio show,
right? Yeah. If you're still doing the show in that year, Chris, I don't know.
Yeah, they'll probably fire me before then.
Well, here's the subplot of this game that I learned yesterday is, so the Ducks wanted to wear black.
Oh wow.
That's what I heard. And, we get to be the home team. And, of course, our guys, Coach Campbell was willing to go back and wear Cardinal, but the players all wanted to wear black another time since it's a COVID year. So, like, the undercard is, had we not worn black, they would have worn black, so we're wearing black so they can't.
Okay, there you go.
Well, the thing about Rob in Oregon, you guys have like 45 different uniform combinations, so it doesn't really matter, right?
Right. We do have quite a few combinations, and we wore a really cool black uniform this year, celebrating Ohana, kind of our connection to Hawaiian culture and family. So it was a pretty special uniform. I'm sure that's what we were thinking about wearing.
How does that work?
Wait. Our connection is to Johnny Cash.
Matt Campbell is the man in black. There's no doubt about that. How does that work with all the different uniforms? Because that's one thing that's really unique about Oregon's brand. And of course, there's the Nike connection. But how do you guys decide which uniforms you're going to wear?
Yeah, I know. Obviously evolved. I mean, Oregon started this many years ago when it was not a popular thing. But because, Nike was born on our campus at Hayward Field with Coach Bowerman and Mr. Knight, we have a special connection with Nike. And many, many years ago, Tinker Hatfield, the creator of the Air Jordan, was really trying to create a brand around Oregon football. And one of the things they said is, since we don't have this longstanding tradition, let's do something different. And that's where the uniform combinations were born out of. And there's been an evolution of it. There's been player input. And that's kind of where it works now, is they work a year out and really get kind of a leadership council of players to weigh in on a special uniform or trending ideas. And we've had a lot of different ones over the years. Some fans love, and some of them they don't love so much. But it's with player input, and it's kind of scripted out, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's been key to our brand.
Yeah, yes. Jamie, do you ever hear from fans about the black uniforms? I say that in jest.
Yeah, never. I say, they tell me to give Coach Campbell whatever he wants, and that's a lot cheaper than giving him like several $1 million. So I just want to know, Rob, is there any chance you guys are wearing Cardinal and gold for our game?
I don't think so. Although we many, many years ago, our school colors were a dark blue and a gold, and we wore those one time, and it wasn't very well received. I think we probably get similar emails when we wear black. So our fans want to see green and yellow in our uniform, and as much green and yellow as possible.
Yeah.
Well, if it's any consolation to you, we're 8-0, 9-0 in the black uniforms at home. We're now 0-1 on the road. So,
one thing I think is interesting about you guys, and that you both have CPA backgrounds, and the business of college sports has changed. Probably, is it, Rob? Would you say it's accurate to say it's changed forever after this year? I mean, long lasting, at least for the next decade. I want to ask you both this question: how you've leaned on that financial background and how that's come into play this year with all the challenges.
Well, it's been critical long before this, but obviously now, and there's so many issues, not just dealing with a global pandemic, but when you look at name, image, likeness, the things that are happening in the courts, there's no doubt. But I think aside from the financial acumen of budgets and allocating resources, what the backgrounds that we're fortunate to have is also teach us about process and building systems. And, that's how you build sustained success, right? Is you build a process and you tweak it and you keep going. And so I think just a systematic approach to the leadership of something that's complex and as diverse as college athletics. I mean, we really have two elements of our operation that make money. And then for us, because you have 20 sports, we have 18 that don't. And so the allocation of resources is critical because we want them all to have a great experience and to be able to compete at the highest level. And some of that is tied to resources.
What about you, Jamie? I remember when you got hired, and I didn't know anything. I was young and dumb at the time. But I remember thinking, oh, this guy's he's got a financial background. And in my mind, like, oh, you had to be Tom Osborne or Barry Alvarez to become an athletic director. How is that just that background kind of evolved throughout the years in your chair?
Well, I think, what Rob referenced about process and systems is so true. I always think back to just the ability to think analytically about problems, to create systems and solutions, and then being able to articulate those, and Rob and I both are blessed that we've worked, for some really good leaders. We both worked for Debbie Yao, and, I think we both would give Debbie tremendous credit for who we are as leaders. And a big part of that was, her background was she was a former English teacher, and she was awesome at being able to articulate something and put it in writing. And I know that that's been a big part of, who I've been as a leader, is being able to communicate what you're thinking and being able to explain why, so people can understand. They don't always agree, but if you can explain why, it gives them the ability to come along and, give you a chance. And so I think that foundation has been really important.
That's really good stuff. All right. The Cyclones and the Ducks, we're going to get to predictions. But before we do, Rob, give me something on Jamie. I got to have something on him for the Cyclone fan base. Give me a story. I need to know, like, pre-Iowa State Jamie Pollard. Give me something good here.
Wow. I have some, but the things that happened on Bourbon Street when we went to New Orleans with the Super Bowl, we swore would stay on Bourbon Street. So I'm a man of my word. I mean, listen, I've emulated a lot of things, Jamie Pollard, and I'm lucky. One thing that I cannot emulate is running with the guy. I thought I was a runner until I met Jamie. I'm a jogger. Jamie's a runner. I can't run with Jamie. I can't run with Ellen. I can't run with Thomas, Annie, Maggie, James, none of them. But what I'll tell you about Jamie is again, I'm not going to share any of the Bourbon Street stuff. He was a fun guy to have as a mentor. He's been a great, great, great friend. And what I learned is about balance, about family. We can have these intense roles. We can also be caring. We can care about the organization. We can care about the people. And I feel very, very lucky to have him as a friend. And he set my career on a trajectory that I wasn't even anticipating.
Same to you, Jamie. I mean, you got to be really proud. Look at this guy.
Immensely proud and honored to, I remember when he became the chair of the football committee, I thought, this is really cool. And, I've stayed at this guy's house. But, Jane and Cooper and Tanner, I think to, the games of Mafia in your living room, the games of playing wiffle ball are out in the open lot that's no longer there next to your house.
Yeah.
His two boys are the sweetest kids. They're they're awesome, but they were emulators of everything professional. And so, you know, they'd go up in their room and put on the jersey of some, trying to remember who the players were, but, you know, they were always somebody's, you know, some professional athlete. And it was so fun to play with them. You know, and I just, you know, I my only regret is that he's in Oregon and I'm in the Midwest and we don't get to cross paths as much because, you know, I've gone to some of their little league games when we've been out there. You know, and as a track guy, it's an awesome place to be able to, you know, have somebody that can get you back a house at, you know, the great track stadium at Hayward Field. And I can't wait to see the new one.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell this though, Chris.
Okay.
There's a good story that Rob will remember this one, but well, a couple of them out of it. But, you know, our trip to that Super Bowl was pretty memorable because we flew into Pensacola, stayed with a friend of mine. Then we drove across Alabama, Mississippi to get to New Orleans. And we stopped in Kiln, Mississippi and went to Brett Favre's high school and hometown and took pictures with our cheese heads on. And after the game that night, we came back and stopped at, and we're like at a bonfire or something at Brett Favre's high school with, you know, all these townies from Kiln, Mississippi. But the best story from that Super Bowl was years later because my wife put together this, you know, what do you call it when you, I'm having a mental block here. You take the photos and you make a scrapbook. Okay. And so she made a scrapbook of us for the trip. Okay. So one night I'm watching ESPN 30 for 30s and it's Jeremy Schaap being interviewed about his dad, Dick Schaap, right? Remember the great legendary, you know, journalist. And he asked Jeremy, he goes, what's the best memory of your dad? And now keep in mind, I'm just sitting on my couch watching this 30 for 30. And he said, oh, hands down. It was, my dad was a huge Packers fan. And it was the Packers-Patriots Super Bowl. And my dad was down on Bourbon Street the day before the game. And this woman said, Mr. Schaap, would you autograph my breast? Okay. And as he said it, I'm going, I got that picture. It's in the scrapbook. And sure enough, because Rob and I were right there, and we took a picture with us there as Dick Schaap was autographing her breast on Bourbon Street.
Oh my gosh. And
so I took a, you know, copy of the picture and I sent it to ESPN, care of Jeremy Schaap. And it was about 6 months later, I was at a function in New York City where he was at. And so I went up to him and said, do you remember getting, and he was like, you're the guy that sent that to me? I said, yep. So I'll always, you know, have a great memory of that.
Yeah, that was quite the road trip. Flew to Pensacola, stayed at Fort Walton, drove over, stayed in Baton Rouge. We that was quite a trip.
Most impressive thing about that to me is you didn't have a cell phone. Like you had to have like a real camera.
Right? Oh yeah, we were Geekville.
Yeah, yeah.
We saw the pictures from it. We were like total geeks with our heads on. Yep.
All right, Rob. Well, you're a guest here with me and Jamie, so we'll let you go first. But I assume you're gonna pick a Cyclone victory in the Fiesta Bowl.
I'm going to stay away from predictions. I'm not going to have Mario mad at me because I created some locker room material, bulletin board material. I just hope we all stay healthy. We get to the game and we have a great game.
Yeah. How are you guys gonna watch it? Because I kind of know how this works. Like we're all having fun now, but I've seen Jamie right before kickoff. It gets pretty intense. You're going to stay away from each other. How are you going to watch the game on the second?
Well, I haven't really thought about that. I'm sure we'll see each other before the game or, you know, on the field. I don't know about beyond that, but we'll probably separate so that we can yell at the officials about opposite things.
Yeah, exactly. I had somebody come into my booth on Saturday in Dallas, just somebody from the industry. And they didn't know the drill that you don't come into my box in the middle of the game unannounced and then come up and tap me on the shoulder and want to go introduce me to like 5 or 6 people. So they got the kind of the abrupt cold shoulder. And then I did apologize later, but it was like, don't do that to me. Because, you know, when you're AD, I love road games. And Rob probably can attest to this, is because the road games, I pretty much get to watch the game.
Yeah.
You know, absent the people that I've invited to be in kind of the inner circle for that game, you know, where most times you don't get to do that because, you know, at home games, you got all the other stuff you're worrying about and everybody else that wants to come see you. So, you know, for a bowl game, that's like one of the rare moments that I actually get to sit and enjoy and watch the game and be more fan than I am probably AD. So
true.
Well, it'll be a great matchup. I'm really, just as an Iowa State fan, I'm really happy that it's Oregon. I've been a long admirer of the program. I'm more of a marketer than I am anything, Rob. And I read Phil Knight's book and the whole uniform thing. I just think it's fascinating how Oregon has grown over the years, and a big admirer of you and your program. So best of luck and have a very happy holiday. Okay, sir.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun. And Phoenix is a great place. It's a great city. Obviously, the stadium is, state of the art. So it's going to be a great matchup. Iowa State's just had a phenomenal year. Even getting in the number of games they got in is a huge victory. And so I look forward to getting to Phoenix and having a little fun.
Jamie, you have any parting words?
Well, you know, we will definitely be the underdog because, you know, those guys have been in that stadium multiple times, haven't you? How many times have you played in there?
We've only, I don't even know. I'm not sure we have played. We played basketball in that stadium, but the last time we were there in football, I don't know that one was even built. I forget when we played.
Were you in the college football playoff down there before?
No, it was before we played in the playoff was before Phoenix. We were in the old PCS there.
Okay. All right.
Well, guys, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for letting me kind of sit in the middle. It's been fun to watch you guys go back and forth. And maybe next year we'll do it before the college football playoff. How about that?
Now you're talking.
Well, Rob, give my best to Jane and the boys. Merry Christmas. Hope Santa's good to all of you. And we'll see you on probably the 31st or the 1st. So,
yep. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate you doing this. This has been a fun walk down memory lane.